I feel like I should begin this talk with a warning. If you're not in a place in yourself right now that is struggling, that is on fire, that is confused and questioning, probably shouldn't listen to this talk. If you're sitting around feeling like you have the answers and you are in a state of peace and bliss, turn it off. Or come back to it when you find yourself in a burning state. This is and has been a very extraordinary time for me. And it seems to be generalizing to so many people that I know that I feel I just need to talk this through. Anyone who's been following the talks recently knows that this has been an unusually painful period for very, very worldly reasons, obviously. I have a, this all sounds so small on some level, but a Broadway show closing in a week. I have put this house on sale with my wife. We are planning to dissolve a portion of our life here. We are entering into a kind of unexpected unknown, which is very, it is, let's use the word scary and painful. Now, I have been working spiritually for almost 50 years, and I think anyone who's listening to this would like to hear that somehow a spiritual life makes it so you don't have to suffer the pain of worldly life. And I will tell you, there are certain spiritual practices that make it possible not to suffer the reality of your daily life. And they're very attractive. And I recommend them to people who want to stay detached from their own suffering. I get it. I get Prozac, I don't know the names of all the drugs that are out there, I get tequila, and I get all the choices that are available to us. But for me, the spiritual life is to live it, is to go through it. And I am finding it to be profound, and maybe the best spiritual teaching I have ever known, and the most painful. I'm drawn a lot to the image of Buddha under the bo tree, fighting off all of the forces that come surging at him. And fighting off is the wrong word, although he may have started off fighting them off, because I think that's what we all do. But I think really it's observing them and possibly feeling them. I suspect feeling them at first. And those forces were perceived as seductive and terrifying, both. Perhaps not sequentially, perhaps in different order, maybe simultaneously. But I see so much of what I'm experiencing as being very involved in seduction and repulsion, fear and hope, all of these very, very primal human experiences. And because I'm not trying to run from them and hide from them or sit in a state of disassociation or even really detachment, I'm just trying to sit in what is. And what is the most painful, difficult, demanding experience I've ever gone through. And I never fully expected that on some level in spiritual work. I certainly thought after awakening that would all be past tense, and maybe for some people who awaken it is past tense, but it's not past tense here, and so I'm talking about the truth of this experience. I was with Rudy once, upstairs in the ashram, in his apartment, and the TV was on, and there was a news report, and there was a Tibetan monk sitting on the ground on fire, literally. He had just doused himself with gasoline and set himself afire, and he was sitting there like this, burning. And Rudy and I both stared at the screen. And then Rudy turned to me and he said, "You have no idea how hard that man is working." And I never forgot that. And really, the feeling I'm getting right in this moment in my life is I have never worked this hard. It's not a literal fire in the sense of gasoline and flame, but it's a fire. And I'm discovering, as I live this out, that the world around me is filled with people telling me their stories, and they're all on fire. So many people right now. And it's so heartbreaking and touching, and I never would have experienced the depth of feeling and compassion that I have if I weren't in that same place. One of the things I've discovered, so many lessons are coming, but it's the people who are suffering who offer the most love and compassion. It's extraordinary. The people who are having a great life, they don't get it. They're not there yet. They don't know how to feel and truly touch. I have a cousin who just had a stillborn baby. I have a friend who's getting a cochlear implant tomorrow, asking for my prayers, which I have happily given, but has no idea what hearing will be like when she comes out of this. People who have lost dogs, people who have lost relationships, a man whose child died. And I just look at all of this and I go, how do people get through it? How do you get through life? And what I realize also is that, and I've talked about this in the last few weeks, when these events occur, they have a quality of reality, of absolute hard reality I talked about, that is unavoidable, undeniable, literally undeniable, meaning that you cannot find a place of denial. You're just there, in it. Being in it consciously, and that's a big difference, because being in it and squirming and unconscious is horrible. Being in it consciously has extraordinary emotive power, transformative power. I would like to say that it leads to understanding, but I don't know that that's what it does. I went backstage in New York on Friday night to watch the play from backstage, which I had done once in London and wanted to do here. And I hadn't seen everybody since the announcement of the closing. So it was announced to the cast that I was there, and I stood on the stage, kind of like a prop that they kept moving around to get out of the way of all the changes that were going on stage. The feeling of being in that space with everyone, and all of their emotion and all of their love and all of their understanding that what they were doing now was counting down to the very last moments that this will ever be done in the world, on this stage with this production. Counting it down. They have 8 more times they're going to do this very thing, and they are giving it 100%. They are performing like you can't imagine. The audience is loving this beyond belief. They are laughing, applauding, screaming, crying. I mean, giving it an unbelievable response. And the question that comes whenever we speak, and we all had a little moment to connect, is, why is this happening? Why is this? People are loving this so much. Why is this closing? Why is this going away? And there is no answer. There is no answer. I mean, you can come up with answers. You know, I talked about them last week. You know, if a certain critic hadn't given us a bad review, maybe it would be working. If this had happened, that had happened, maybe it would be working. But the answers don't satisfy on any level. And I really understood, especially in teaching today, that it's not having answers that is so important. Because ultimately, what all of us have to reach for in life is an acknowledgement of and an acceptance of the unknowable. The unknowable, the unnameable, the unjust, even if you want to give it a negative spin. The stuff that cannot be brought into clarity, that you cannot go, oh, that's it. Because at the core of all of our existence is this phenomenal mystery. And it's a mystery that remains an absolute abstract for most people throughout their life. And then a situation will come up like the loss of a child, the loss of a show. You know, I know they don't seem to compare, but they share a lot of similarity. Something that is inexplicable, cannot be answered, has, if you are facing it head on, the power of not being able to answer, the power of not knowing, the power of saying, I surrender to thy will. Doing that abstractly has no power. Doing it in the face of absolute reality, as you know it, undeniable reality, is an extraordinary interaction with truth. Truth and, I'm going to call it beauty. And I can only call it beauty because I stood on that stage watching this glorious thing going on from the backstage and looking onto the stage itself. I'm watching all of this happen, and it is so beautiful, and it is not going to be there in a week. And its beauty is so powerful because it is not going to be there. The loss of a child who never got a chance to be here, as horrific as it is, brings up a kind of beauty. A kind of beauty because it makes you aware what it means not to be here. What it means not to touch this. The sadness of that is about beauty. It's about love. It's about the extraordinary sense of being, even when nothing is as you would like it to be, or as you believe it should be, when it is incomprehensible, when it's unjust, when it's unfair, when you're angry, when you're afraid, when you're uncertain. All of that is part of this enormous experience. And Buddha, sitting under that bo tree, I believe, was experiencing all that. And I think he saw that it was an illusion. I think he saw, as I have seen, that it's both completely tangibly real and absolutely ephemeral. We all know that somehow. But boy, when you are facing the loss of something that's so substantial and knowing it's going to go, the power of that is enormous. It has a power to elevate, to anoint, to terrify, to transform, if you allow it to. If you find a spiritual clarity that comes from, honestly, years of sitting still, years of doing it wrong, years of not knowing what you're talking about, years of trying to get somewhere and not knowing where there is, knowing that you haven't arrived there, then, as I say, week by week, realizing at some point that this is all there is, you are there, this is it, and the this is it that you're in isn't playing out the way you want it to. Well, how is that spiritual? I thought if I played it by the books, and I did it right, I would get everything I wanted. That's childlike dreaming. It's the illusion of a spiritual life. It's the illusion of meditation and yoga giving you what you want. It gives you what's real. It gives you what is. That's all it gives. It gives you what is. And if you can't accept that, then go live in a cave and find out what is that way. You'll find out what is no matter where you go, I promise you. You'll find out what is. But you won't find out what you want. You'll find out the truth. And I will tell you, it will be beautiful. You may not like it, but you will feel its beauty. You will cry. You will say thank you. You may say, this really hurts, but I've never been so alive ever. I've never been more in the mix. I've never been more in touch with the universe. Walking away from this house, this house is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. We had 40 realtors walk through here the other day, and they're all going, it's paradise, it's magic. They were just saying all these amazing things, and I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to sell this place? It's everything they say it is. And Blanche and I are, we're hugging each other, trying to work this one through. It's so hard. It's so hard. And, it is. It just is. And I'm saying all this because everyone in the world who finally acknowledges life is going to be where I'm talking about. You're going to sit right in this spot. You're going to sit here and you're going to do one of two things. You're going to curse the universe, or you're going to say, I don't get it, but I am it. I am this very thing. The essence of the universe, and that's what we all are. We are all some essential, maybe the essential truth of being, incorporates all of this horrible stuff and all of this wonderful stuff, and without one you wouldn't have the other, and in some unidentifiable, unknowable way, we are the truth of that. We are the very essence of that. And somebody has to tell us that, and all the great teachers have tried to tell us that. And they tell us in their own way, and then we codify it, and we tell stories about it, and we lose the truth of it. And the truth of it is that you're living it. Every one of you is living it. Whether you're aware of it yet or not, you're living it. And if you're not aware of it yet, trust me, it will come. The worst thing that can happen, I think, is having never ever explored this, and then having something horrible happen. I think I talked about this last week. Blanche and I were minutes away from a car accident last week that we could have been in the intersection and weren't, but 2 people were killed and two parents and 2 children survived. And it was horrifying. And then yesterday I was just intersections away. I crossed this spot where some guy was shot in Times Square just before he got there. I'm going, well, why am I approaching all of these moments? Why are these strange things happening? And I realized what happens for so many people is that life leads them to that moment, and at that second, as they are leaving this world, they got to figure out everything I've been working 40-some years to try to handle, to try to explore, to try to come to know. You don't want to do this in the last second of your life. You just don't want to wait that long. And so you may have no choice, but I'm telling you, try sitting still every day. Try being a whole human being. Try living from a place of consciousness, and this knowledge will start to come. It'll come because you're living in the moment and not in avoiding the moment. If you're really practicing spiritual life, you will not be trying to escape life, you will be trying to enter life. That's what we want. That's what we're all looking for. And the opportunity is so enormous and so immediate and so in front of us as this very second. Not to do that, not to make that choice, is crazy. But, I will tell you, the pain I've been experiencing is so enormous that I know why everybody who chooses not to go there chooses not to go there. But I will encourage you. If it arises in front of you, don't go away from it. Don't turn away. Don't try to meditate it away. Try to meditate it in. Try to absorb it. Try to live it. Try to be it. Because it has gifts to offer. Huge gifts. They are painful gifts. Watching something you love die is the most painful gift there is. It makes no sense. How can someone who's so alive and so vibrant and so beautiful not be here? Nobody can grasp that. Nobody. The inability to grasp that is everything. Because the mind can't do it. You have to go outside of the mind. And when you go outside of the mind into this place that can't get it, you're in it. You're in it. You will never get it. And that's okay. It can't be gotten. It's too big. It's too amazing. It's too full of wonder. It's too full of mystery. It will never be owned by anybody. You will simply open and sit there and watch it at this enormous cost to yourself, which means the cost is they will take everything from you. But what they will leave you is the it that you see. The it. The wonder of it, the beauty of it. It will be without character, perhaps, but it will be that very thing, because it's what you are. It's what we are. And that's what you come to as you do this work. Everything gets dismantled, broken down, and the gorgeousness of that is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Literally. It just is. So here we are on this incredible ride, and it's going to hurt. And I have nothing to offer you as a balm to help you through that hurt, other than try the opposite of what you think is right. Instead of running from it, say, yes, thank you. I will be here. And cry. I mean, I'm not a great crier, but come Saturday next week, I don't know how I'm going to hold it together. I hate that this show is closing. I hate it. I hate that these wonderful people are going to be disappearing from my life. I hate that the world's not going to have an opportunity to see what we've created here that's so beautiful because one guy didn't like it. It makes no sense. But it has brought me to a place of such amazing appreciation that I say thank you to these critics, and I say thank you to everybody who put this show together and for the enormity of the experience that I've had with this. And if my life hadn't had this in it, it would be a terrible loss. And my life has had it. And I've had all of this stuff, and trust me, have a full life and lose everything. Don't have nothing because you're afraid of losing. Have it all. I could trip on this forever, guys. I can just keep going, but I think you got the idea. And I hope those of you who stayed around to listen to this talk got something out of it, and those of you who come back to it 5 years from now, it'll still be meaningful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.